Well, welcome to the March 2025 Tableau Public TUG. I hope everyone is getting a little bit of this spring weather that we've been having here. The past few weeks have been wonderful in Nashville. The birds are out, the blossoms are blooming. It's wonderful. We're excited to have three amazing Tableau Public authors joining our TUG today. This is our last Tableau Public TUG before TC25. With us today are Will Sutton, Tableau Visionary and IronViz winner. He'll present his Age of Olympians. So what are you looking forward to at TC25, Will?
I'm really just looking forward to catching up with people again. It's really good to hear what everyone's up to, what people are interested in, like from the keynotes, and just it gives me a lot of ideas and inspiration, really.
Yeah, I get a lot of inspiration from TC. Also with us is Myles Stevenson. He'll be presenting his beautiful map viz, The Power of Passports. Myles, you're not going to TC, but what are you visiting about currently?
Yeah, so no, unfortunately, I'm not able to come to TC this year, but I'm currently making a viz about Easter. I'm looking at chocolate sales and how they're affected through Lent. So in the UK, we do like 40 days where people give up things, and then how that then affects sales in Easter.
Oh, I'm very familiar with Lent. So yeah, look forward to seeing that one on Tableau Public. And also with us is Steve Wexler. He's our Community Spotlight author. He will be answering your questions in an Ask Me Anything session. So start posting your questions for him in the chat. Steve, what are you looking forward to at TC25 this year?
Well, the snacks, they're just amazing. Getting energized. There'll be some session, some person who will do something that will enliven my excitement over data visualization in Tableau. I don't know who will do that, where it will be, but it never fails. So I'm looking forward to coming from TC recharged.
Yeah, I hear that. Well, today's hosts are Priyanka Dubal, Agata Kettering, and myself, Eric Howard. We're all members of the Tableau Ambassador Class of 2024. Priyanka is joining us today from Toronto, Canada. She is a Tableau Public Ambassador and has been an active member of the Tableau community since 2018. For her, Tableau Public is a blank canvas where she can create and share beautiful visualizations. Guided by the motto, "Viz what you love," she enjoys exploring topics like music, movies, and sports in her visualizations. Priyanka is not going to TC25 either. So what are you visiting about this month, Priyanka?
I am actually a bit busy these days, but I'm actually kind of keeping myself in check using the Workout Wednesday challenges. So if everyone has not tried those are great too if you want to learn new features. So I'm actually kind of busy with those this weekend, but I'm planning to miss something about the restaurants that I had, the food idea I had last time. So that's still pending.
Oh, cool. I'm always looking away for exploring new features. Agata is joining us today from Portland, Maine. Agata first discovered Tableau Public in 2016. She completed every Makeover Monday challenge in 2020 and has been an active member of the Tableau community ever since, earning many Viz of the Days along the way from Tableau Public. Besides being a host for our Tableau Public TUG, she co-leads the Northern New England user group. In her day job as a data visualization analyst at Gannett, Agata loves helping business users find insights in their data in visually appealing ways. So what are you looking forward to at TC25, Agata?
Well, I still have snow in my yard, Eric, so I'm looking forward to some San Diego weather.
No sun.
But I'm also just so excited to see everybody and kind of like Steve said, just get energized. When I first went to my very first Tableau conference in 2019, that's kind of what got me really excited about using Tableau and joining the community. So you definitely get that energized feeling. It's always so fun.
Awesome. Well, okay, I'm speaking at Tableau conference this year, so that's what I'm looking forward to. If you're still around on the last day, come hang out with me at 1 p.m. in the Data Village. I'll be presenting Steal Like an Artist with inspiration from Tableau Public. All right, so today our agenda is, we'll start off with Steve in the Community Spotlight. In between Myles and Will, we'll have a quick swag drawing. So don't go anywhere. Okay, let's give a big welcome to Steve Wexler, our Community Spotlight author. He's coming to us today from Briarcliff Manor, New York, which he says is the most beautiful place on earth. He's the founder of Data Revelations and the co-author of the Big Book of Dashboards. Steve is a Tableau Hall of Fame visionary, an IronViz champion, and a Tableau training partner. He's taught thousands of people in both large and small organizations, and is known for conducting his seminars with clarity, patience, and humor. Thanks for joining us today, Steve.
My pleasure. Thanks for the invitation.
All right, no pressure on the humor. So you got to spin all these questions with a little bit of wit, okay?
And a little bit of wit, yes. A lot of people call me a half-wit, so this shouldn't be a problem. They call me other things as well, but this is polite conversation.
All right, well, let's get started with my first question that I ask everybody. You have such a storied history with Tableau. What inspired you to really originally get involved with Tableau?
Employment. That's a very good inspiration. Long story, but I'd always run my own company or run my own practice. And 20 odd years ago, I ended up having to find a job. And I ended up approaching a former colleague who ran the e-learning guild. It's now called the Learning Guild, to be their director of research and emerging technology. And I had this idea of, if you can conduct surveys, why have them as static entities? Why don't we create really great visualizations and make them interactive so people could filter by their needs? This is 2006, by the way. And they said, wow, that sounds amazing. What tool should we use? And I said, funny you should ask. We should use a tool called Spotfire. And it just looked really great. And they said, well, before we invest in this technology, this tool, this expertise, why don't you go out and see what else is out there? And I did. And I discovered Tableau and had a, oh my, experience. Now, this is like the Australopithecine era of Tableau. This is Tableau version 2.0. There are no maps. There are no dashboards. They're just individual sheets, but it was still miles ahead of what else was out there. So that's how I discovered it. That's how I got hooked.
So much better than Excel. Well, I have to ask, what was Tableau 2.0 like?
Pretty darn primitive. No, primitive by what we're used to. But the concept of continuous versus discrete measures, dimensions, chart types, best practice, a lot of really smart things built in. And by the way, the thing that made it well, I have to work with this tool versus this other one was the other tool didn't have undo. Imagine trying to use Tableau without undo. You know, it shoots and ladders. You go back to the very beginning and have to start over. So this kind of made it a no-brainer of, you know, what we should be working with. But a lot of the core underpinnings of the technology were already there. But imagine not having dashboards. Maps were done as putting an image behind a scatter plot, which is, in fact, you can do that now. If you want to do a map of a floor plan, you want to do a map of a corporate headquarters and show where things are, that's the way you can do it. But if you wanted a map of the world or map of the United States, you took an image, you put it behind something, and then you came up with your own coordinate scheme to make the dots appear where you want it on this map.
Mm-hmm. I think I did that with Visio way back, but wow, Okay. So did it have the same sort of layout with the data pane on the left and the shelves up at the top?
Yeah, and all that stuff was absolutely the same. Columns, rows, marks card, filters, etc.
User interface was the same.
They're very similar. I mean, it's kind of cool to look at the evolution of these things. And one of the Tableau conferences, they had like every version of Tableau, and you could go to it and you could go back. It could go back to version 1.x, which precedes me. I go back to 2.0. And that's old, but you could see what it was like, what it looked like, what was clunky, what wasn't. But a lot of the epiphany-like things were already there. That's in desktop. This predates Tableau Public by, I think, 4 years.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, what was the early days of Tableau Public like?
So, mentioned before this, a great person to ask about this would be Ellie Fields, who was a senior engineer and one of the leaders of product development at Tableau. It was to some extent her brainchild to do this. And it was as they were getting into using Tableau Server, they wanted a way to test really hitting the server hard, but also getting people to use this, news organizations to test it, to try it. And if I remember correctly, it was an uphill battle because there was, well, how can you possibly do this? You know, we're giving away something that we're trying to sell. So trust me, it will lead to more sales. So there was a great worry about it. We don't want to give away too much. So when it first came out, you had a limit of 100,000 rows for a while. Also, you couldn't lock stuff down. You know, you couldn't hide things. Everything was there. I think everything was downloadable.
It was.
So, yeah, it was public with all, you know, I was going to say big ass letters with vowels, but it was public. And then they increased the row limit to 1 million, then the row limit to 10 million. I don't even know if there's a row limit at this point, but for most people, probably 10 million rows is going to get the job done.
Yeah.
But all these, don't take for granted this thing is out there, this incredible gift of a way to share your stuff with the world, but also see how people are making stuff. Try to imagine what you do without Tableau Public being there and downloading something, reverse engineering it, see the brilliance that someone has put into something. And what an amazing thing that they did it and they pushed for it and got this to be a critical component to what allows our communities to succeed so much. Yeah. So glad that got through, glad that they did it, that they didn't say, hey, this is going to hurt sales of our product. By the way, there was an attempt to make something a paid-for version of Tableau Public, which was called Tableau Digital. Oh, you want that capability? You want this capability? You want a whole bunch of rows? You're going to have to pay for something like that. And it was just too difficult to maintain these two different things.
I do not remember that product, but wow. Okay, first question from the chat. Your book, The Big Book of Dashboards, is a staple in the data visualization world. If you were to write an even bigger book of dashboards, what's one major lesson or trend you'd add today?
Well, there is. Funny, you know, Preeti we didn't chat ahead of time, but there is another book that's in the works. So Big Book of Dashboards came out in 2017. I wrote a book called The Big Picture, which is much more for the consumers of charts and dashboards than creators, but to get them to realize that the mere mortals that don't create these sumptuous dashboards need to be conversant in the language of charts and graphs. But we've been working for over a year, and by we, I mean my chart chat chums, Amanda McCulloch, Andy Cotgrave, Jeffrey Schaefer, on a new book. And we at one point thought about calling it the Even Bigger Book of Dashboards, but has a different focus. It's called Dashboards That Deliver, and it delves into a lot of the process things that you need, a framework for developing these things. So yes, there'll be scenarios. Yes, there'll be thriving in the real world, but there will also be what are the human factors and the steps you need to go through to ensure that your dashboard initiatives succeed. And if you make it, how do you make sure they will come and they will use it? And that's the biggest difference between the first book, which was scenario based. If you have this predicament, make it look like this. Here's why. And okay, we have some scenarios, but how do you go through? What's the spark for a new dashboard? What's the discovery phase like? What is the prototyping? What is the design and development? Releasing this, getting the messaging out, planning for enhancements to the dashboard.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest difference between the two.
Okay. Well, I think anybody who's been around for a while has dealt with that issue of, I built this beautiful thing. It checks all the boxes. Why isn't it getting used?
And,
Yeah.
you know, it's available for pre-sale on Amazon, by the way, dashboards that deliver.
All right.
But
You'll look for that one. Final question before we have to move on to Myles. What's the biggest change that you've seen in Tableau Conference over the years?
Well, wow, you are dealing with an old guy here, and you'll see why in a minute. And BJ is writing, definitely the snacks. I attended the first Tableau conference. 1957. It was all in black and white. No, in 2008. Let's do something quickly. If you were there by some chance, don't type this in. How many people do you think attended that conference? Employees, and go ahead, type into chat. Just take a guess. How many people attended the first Tableau conference in 2008?
Yeah, 550, 56, 95, 250, 30. That's pretty low.
Now realize it peaked at something like 15,000, but it was 187 people.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. And then you're looking at growth that probably needs to be expressed on a logarithmic scale. So
was that one in Seattle?
That one was in Seattle. The first two were in Seattle. I think the third one was in Seattle. I've only missed one, which was 2010.
Okay.
At one point, this thing really went through a huge difference. I think between 2013 and 2014, when it went from 4,000 attendees to like 7,500, it became a very different look and feel to the thing. IronViz changed dramatically in 2015. So, our lives were miserable, those of us who competed in IronViz, but not nearly as miserable as it must have been for you. You know, we had maybe 3-4 days of misery. We didn't get the data until we arrived.
Wow.
Well, also it was really, you can't copy and paste. You're starting internet connection. You're starting, it's a much more difficult and much bigger production value. Also, the first 4 IronVizes were breakout sessions. It wasn't until 2015 where it became a keynote presentation. So I'll just give you one other thing with this thing is only for many years, only the first place finisher got a prize. And Will can talk about just the amount of time that you put into this thing. First prize for many years, and I think when it even became a keynote, was $2,000 and an iPad. How did I receive the $2,000? They said, well, if we give you a check, we have to take taxes, but we can give you gift cards. So I got 20 gift cards to my grocery store, and that's how I used the prize for from winning IronViz, which I would never even dream or come close to competing in that now.
Wow. Yeah, that is incredible. I can't imagine the amount of the time that you have to put in on that. But thank you for being with us today. We're going to
absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Those were all wonderful answers.
And all live.
is going to be Myles Stevenson with his power of passports. So I will turn it over to Myles and Priyanka.
Thank you, Eric and Steve. That was wonderful. Yeah, Myles, very excited to have you. I'll give a quick introduction before Myles takes it through his visualization. Sorry. So Myles is the data visualization specialist at Information Lab. He uses his Tableau expertise and his passion for turning complex data into actionable insights. Originally, he's from an educational background, but he discovered his love for data while using Tableau to analyze educational metrics and expertise that inspired him to pivot into a career of data analytics. At Information Lab, he combines his technical expertise with creative storytelling to help organizations uncover meaningful insights through interactive data visualization. I'm very excited to have you here, Myles, and I'm sure we are keen to know how you built that visibility. Please take it away.
Thank you so much for the introduction. Yeah, as you heard, I do have a background in education. So I will start this by saying I do apologize if anyone gets Vietnam flashbacks from my way of presenting, because if you start thinking about being back at school, that's where I learned to present. So I do apologize. But yes, as you heard, I'm Myles. I have a love for data. Started my journey in education, and we're going to talk today about how I created the Viz Power of Passports. The inspiration behind this Viz was a simple one. It's a question I'm pretty sure loads of people have heard at some point in their lives. It sat down between me and my girlfriend, and I was asked the question, where should we go on holiday? Now, although a simple question, it led me to think, where can we go on holiday? What are the options? Upon researching this, I found, so I did what any sane person would do in a situation like this. Instead of Googling where are good places to go on holiday, I web scraped Wikipedia, like any sane person would. On Wikipedia, for my passport, there is a table for every single passport, every single country that you can go and visit, whether you need a visa, whether you don't, whether it's an e-visa, all of those things. Now, for those of us in the Tableau world, we know that we're all from different parts of the world. Some of us are here from America today, some of us are here from the UK. And so although I'm at my office and I'm looking at my passport, the person sat next to me, they're from Belgium. The person sat opposite me, they've got a Spanish passport. So that led me to think, well, hang on, where can they go on holiday? So this then led down to, actually, why gather just the data on my passport? Why not gather the data on every passport? So that's what I did. I did use Ultrix in this, and what I did is I web scraped every Wikipedia page from every single passport that I could think of. Now, obviously, it's a big list, and when we get this data, we get it through in the HTML format. So this becomes the full HTML of the web page, of the Wikipedia page. So what we then need to do is essentially look for those HTML tags in the Wikipedia page. And what we end up with is, after a lot of transformations, and I won't go into too much detail about these transformations. After a lot of transformations, we find which countries they can go to, and we can filter down to whether you need a visa or not to go to those countries. By the way, if anyone has any questions during this presentation, please do just pop it in the chat. And obviously I can't see the chat at the moment, so if anyone can just interrupt me and just shout out if there are any questions, that'd be great. So I had my list of countries, places I can go, but that wasn't enough for me, because if I'm going on holiday, I need to know not just where I'm going on holiday, but what is it that I'm going to do. And for that, I consulted someone who I think is everyone's best mate currently, ChatGPT. So with ChatGPT, I got ChatGPT to essentially generate me a list of 3 activities that you can do in every country. I wanted this to be a bit varied. I wanted to make sure that we didn't have the same city necessarily for all of the same city for all the activities. I wanted them to be varied across the country. That then led me to having essentially 2 data sources. Everywhere we could travel to, and then what we can do in those countries. Now, what I thought I would do for this part of the presentation is essentially walk you through how I made that map viz in the first place. So again, with the help of my best mate, ChatGPT, I took the capital cities of every single country and got ChatGPT to get me the latitude and longitude for those countries. Now, Tableau is great. I didn't need to necessarily do the latitude and longitude. I could have just used the city, and obviously Tableau's geographical function would have just worked, but I wanted to make sure that this was really accurate, so I kept with the latitude and longitude. So in order to create this map, the first thing I did is I used the Tableau function make point. So this will be our travel from. And with this traveling from, it will be the make point. And if you're like me and you can never remember which way around the latitude and longitude need to go in the make point, don't worry, there's obviously the guide on the side here. So we're going to do latitude first. So we'll have our from latitude and then our from longitude. That'll make our travel from. And we'll do the same with our traveling to. So we'll use that make point function again. And we'll go to latitude and then to longitude. So what this does is this makes our geographical point. If I drag that on, you can see our geographical point of every single capital city that we have in our data set. And also the same thing with our traveling to. So now we obviously want the flight paths to go from one country to another country. So again, we're going to use a calculated field, and these are going to be our flight paths. And we're going to go, we're not going to do that yet. We're going to use the make line function, and we'll go from travel from to travel to. That's not being recognized as spatial. Not being recognized. This is curse of the presentation here, isn't it? Curse of the presentation that it doesn't work now that we're under pressure. There we go. Perfect. So now we can drag that travel to. No, we can't. We can drag our flight paths onto our space, And then we have essentially this massive mess. Now, the reason obviously we have this massive mess, it's not that nice to look at right now, is because we've got every single flight path that exists from every country to every single country. This wouldn't look as nice, so we want a way for the user to filter this down a little bit. So the way I did this is I created a parameter. This is a choose your country, or choose your passport, I should say, parameter. And it's a string. And we obviously added our values from those countries. We need a way for Tableau to be able to filter this down. So we create our calculated field. And this is just our filter. And we just say here that our country is equal to our passport. And we filter that only to be true. We can show this parameter, and then obviously this having a massive list of everything isn't necessarily that nice. So what I chose to do was just have this as a type in. So you could type in, for example, what passport you have, and that would show you on the map. And we'll just fix that there. Now, this is great and all, however, it still looks a little bit messy, especially if you've got some countries that have lots of flight paths, for example, the UK or Singapore. They're countries that have, I'll show you that as well. Obviously, these countries have lots of flight paths, so maybe we want to just limit that for the user so that they aren't bombarded with so much at once. And what I did is for these flight paths, I added them to filter. So what we can do is we'll add countries onto filter, and then we'll just say our top 10 by. We'll leave that for now. So after completing this, looking at every country and narrowing the scope down so that we had every single country and you could choose, you could see all the activities. This then led to me showing this to my girlfriend and saying, boom, we've done it. I know every single passport, every single place we can go, and activities in every single country that we can go to. To which she then responded, okay, but where are we going on holiday? So yes, I loved making the story. I loved creating the viz. However, it doesn't necessarily solve every answer. Thank you so much. And obviously, if there are any questions, please do let me know.
Thank you, Myles. That was such a fun motivation for you to build this quiz, to have ideas for trips. I've been there for sure. So I think I am personally curious because this is what I love to do. Love to extract data on my own when I don't get anything. In your experience, do you think Alteryx is easy for anyone to pick up and extract data if we haven't used it before?
Alteryx is one of those tools that once you've learnt it, it can be quite easy to pick up, especially when you want to do things like that. But I think there is a big upfront cost in learning with Alteryx. So you need that dedication up front in order to get that understanding, and that can be quite difficult. But once you've got that understanding, things like web scraping can be done quite quickly. I know there is competition with that as well. I know systems like Power BI can do web scraping if the web scraping is quick. But yeah, I think there's an upfront cost in learning with Alteryx, but then once you've got past that, it can be quite quick to pick things up.
Yeah, that's completely fair. It's fair. Yeah, so I'm just looking at the chart. Right.
Right. Just because I've seen Eric's thing in the chat, that yeah, it's one of these things, right? Especially in the data visualization, we get carried away so often, and we get pulled down a path of, oh, I can think about, oh, I can do this, or I can do that, or I can show how we can do this, or I can show how we can do that. That sometimes, yeah, in this case, I lost that initial question of where are we actually going.
Did you end up picking a place to go?
Yes, we ended up going to Lisbon.
Nice.
I think you can add a second layer to that same list of countries you have completed visiting with your passport.
I'll start changing the colors, and you'll see it over time as I've traveled to more and more places.
Oh, nice.
Nice.
All right, so are we ready to give away some swag? Awesome. Let me share my screen here. I've got everyone's names loaded up. So let me click to spin. Come on. There we go. Sorry, Yvonne. Afan Rababa, I hope I got that right, is the winner today. So let me get back over here and show you how to claim your prize. If you will email tableau.public.tug@gmail.com, I will send you a link for a $50 gift certificate to the Tableau store, and you can order whatever you like online. All right, well, thank you for that. Next up is Agata and Will with the Age of Olympians viz.
All right. So it is my pleasure to introduce our next speaker, Will Sutton. Will started using Tableau in 2014 and published his first visualization on Tableau Public in 2015. So when I saw that, I was like, man, he's been using this for a long time, but with Steve on, hardly, he's got you beat a little bit. Still, you know, you got your 10-year anniversary though, so nice, good work. You might know Will if you attended Tableau Conference 2022, and he was on the big stage when he won IronViz Champion. This is kind of awesome. We've got 2 IronViz champions on today. I don't think that's ever happened before. So Will is also active in the Tableau community and co-leads Games Night Biz, a community project that explores data from your favorite games. And since 2022, he has been a consultant at the Information Lab. And today he will walk us through his Age of Olympians viz. Take it away, Will.
screen that made it impossible to see. Parameter. I'm going to go for a range of values from, say, we're going to do 1 to 10 for now. Call it like, I can call it scaling A. And I can go and show that parameter control. So that comes up here on the right. Now, what I'm trying to do is to bring the distance between the different rows down together. So what I can do is take this start point. So it says row here. What I can do is just divide that by my scaling parameter. So this is going to reduce this value down to help bring everything a bit more closer together. Go apply that, and I can do the same for the ends of the bar as well. Okay. And what I can do is I can start changing this parameter value. You can see it's happening here. If I unpin the map, see we start like slowly getting shorter and wider. And I think where I had it was about 3.75. It's not perfect. You can see there's some elements of overlapping here. In this in particular, that's where what I did in practice was just sort of nudge the columns slightly further apart as well, just so I can get that there. Okay. Right, so we've got this. The other things you can do is the axis on here as well. We'll just use that and wrap up after the axis. So the axis is just the central line between these two. And how that works is you can just go and take same things we've done before, but use like a level detail calculation to work out the start and end year for each sport. So, okay, so I can go to my one I've done already. I can duplicate this, edit this to go to the bar, we'll do axis. Okay, so we've got that. We don't need to worry about gender because we're going in between the two bars. So we can leave that. So instead of doing column plus age, what we want to do is actually find out the minimum age if we want to do the start. So again, I'm going to use a calculated field and a level of detail calculation, sorry. So you want to do fixed by discipline, the min age by that bracket. Okay, so I can click that and I'm going to go and add that to my view. You can see here I've got that little like starting bit there. I'm going to do the same for the endpoint. So instead of doing max min age, I'm going to do max. What I'm also going to do is add 1 here so it appears at the end of my bar. If you remember, like we were plotting this like 0.5 in per age. So I want this, if I do it at the max age, it will still appear in the middle of this. So I want it to hang slightly out. So the 0.1, no, adding 1 there just means it's 1 further along for this end. Okay. I can bring that on as well. And then I can just go and make a quick line. Okay, so you can see now I've got a little line going across these, which works. What I can do with these axes, instead of removing them, what you can use is use them as a point for a label. So I need to go and add in the different disciplines here. But what I can do is bring age onto label there. You can see that that's come up at the end. What it's doing is it's summing the ages. So obviously an age of 6,000 is not great. You can change this to, in this case, this is the max. And then just align the label to be just outside the end. Why is it not doing it now? No. Okay, it's not doing it this time. But you get the idea that you can go and, oh, I know. If I change this to circle, yeah. Don't ask me why that works like that. Like, if you change that to circle, that comes through like that. And I could just reduce the size, and then I've got my sort of end bar labels there. And then you just do the same thing for the starting point. So circle, discipline. And then I can just change the calculation on that to min. Right, and there we go. Okay, so there I've been able to make this sort of small multiples chart into map layers. Obviously, is a lot more effort involved. I think a lot of my time was then spent actually trying to move these about slightly to change like the different, like get the scaling right to make the end product. Also, there was also a lot of trouble I had in terms of getting the calculations right with those level of detail counts. Frankly, like people in the Tableau community were there to help me, so which I really appreciate as well. But yeah, this is where I got to with this visualization. That's what I've got for you to say. I do have some resources if you can hang around to the end. So obviously the stuff is all on my Tableau Public page. What I've got, especially, is I made a little like playlist with a new feature on Tableau Public, so you can see this visualization plus the other two I mentioned earlier. Those are all downloadable. You can always go through those and see what I've done, how I've done things there. Also want to do a quick shout out for games like Viz. Obviously, you mentioned Pokemon. We've got a whole Pokemon challenge going on at the moment. Tons of loads of cool, interesting Pokemon data sets at the moment. So if you're into that or you want to give it a go, please go and check out our challenge. It'd be great to have you there. But yeah, if you've got any questions, comments, let me know. Happy to answer.
I did see a question from Eric about how you picked your colors since
yeah, I thought this one might come up. It's let me see if I can actually find the resource. I always get the name.
I think I know. There was a blog all about it. I think I read that one.
Yeah, it's the votes for women one.
Yeah,
I can't.
Yeah, if you find that, let me know. I do have one more question for you. So I noticed this was all from the Summer Olympics. So wondering if you're gonna recreate one next winter. I think it's the Winter Olympics, and I know Lindsey Vonn is back. She just turned 40. I'd love to see the skiing age range.
Yeah.
No pressure.
No, I mean, I leave it open to anybody else who wants to do it as well. Absolutely, go ahead. But yeah, I mean, could be cool. I'm always a fan of the biathlon. It's the traditional James Bond villain. So I'm shooting and skiing. So that would be fun.
Yeah, I'm curious how it compares to how the summer versus if there's any differences. But anyway, awesome viz. Let's see. There's one more from Preeti. So when designing your vizzes, what is the hardest decision you have to make balancing storytelling, design, or analysis?
Well, one thing about that, I found it. I think this is it. I remember there's Lisa, and I know the surname began with M. Yeah, this is the Data Wrapper blog where they talk about the sort of traditional, but it's not. There was a lot of podcasts about this at the time as well, where actually pink wasn't always for girls. It was actually for boys at one point. But even showing how certain different online producers do it. But yeah, even the newsrooms were quite all over the place in terms of this. But I think they came down to this. This was the idea for the Telegraph, was doing this, the Votes for Women. This is something I've kind of just sort of stuck with over the years. It's this is a default. These colors that don't appear anywhere else. They don't appear in elections or anything like that. So these feel like a good color palette there to use. Check out the blog. It's really good. I'm going to drop it into the chat for you all.
Yeah, Data Wrapper. I was just using their blog as a resource for something else. They have so much good content on there.
Yeah. Okay. So let's get that piece up. So about this sort of when designing this is like, I think it comes down to a lot of the times like, what's the purpose? What am I trying to do here? And how am I trying to get this person's, how am I going to find this person? How am I going to get their attention to look at this thing has become much more a factor in terms of deciding what to do. So for this data, I knew there's not much depth to it. You have genders, you have different sporting disciplines, you have different sporting events, which is huge. Like there's over 300 different events there that I kind of cut out because I thought that was too much detail. But here, when you're looking at sporting disciplines, genders, and the amount of people that do them, there wasn't too much. There's going to be tons like individual stories, but here the purpose is that kind of the idea I started with of, am I too old to be doing any of these sports? And what I'm trying to get across to people that see this is no, actually, you know, skateboarding, I would have thought no one like over in their 30s would ever be doing that. But actually there's quite a lot of people here that are doing this on the older sort of demographic. So he was trying to say, well, there is hope there. I mean, there might actually come down to the horse in some cases, but there is hope. So it's strictly like about the purpose of what you're trying to communicate. I could have made this interactive. I could have made this like pick your sport and these things, but it just wouldn't have had the broader appeal of like someone who's going to scroll on social media to actually see this and think, oh, that's interesting. I want to take a look at that versus here's one, say the bar chart I started with, trying to get them to engage with that.
Yeah, definitely always good to consider what your goal is, what you actually want to highlight. Well, awesome. It's been great having you. Thanks so much for taking the time, Will.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. If you want to drop the Games Night Viz link, go ahead. And I think Eric has some things to share to wrap up.
Yep. Let me see if I can. Oh, you have to stop sharing, Will, before I can share.
You know, just hogging the screen. That's why.
Hogging the screen. Yeah. All right. Let me share that. So, thank you. That's amazing. Next month, we'll be at TC25, and we hope you are too. If you see us, say hello. But our next tug is going to be May 15th. It's going to be an EMA-friendly tug, so the time is still TBD, but stay tuned. We'll update Bevy and push it out to everybody as soon as we get that pinned down. We'll have Hall of Fame visionary Mark Reed showing us his beautiful South Korea demographics visit of the day. I just love his colors. I mean, this one just pops for me. And we'll also have a Tableau Public Ambassador Robert Taylor show us how he built his playful paper airplanes visit of the day. So we'll look forward to seeing everyone in the Data Village and then again in May at the next Tableau Public TUG. And remember, if you want your own Viz of the Day, build a Viz that is timely or topical, highlights a new Tableau feature, spotlights the diverse Tableau community, includes a novel chart type or Tableau trick, communicates a key insider story, and as always, make it visually stunning. Create a Viz like that and publish it to Tableau Public, and we'll hope to have you on a future version of the Tableau Public TUG. Thanks for joining us today, and if you enjoyed this, please tell all your Data Fam friends to join us on the next Tableau Public TUG.
Before we sign off, though, if you enjoy this tug, remember to vote for it in the Vizzies for your favorite tug.
We should have started with that one.
I know.
I know.
I'm trying to find the link if anybody has it readily available. I cannot find it.
I think Preeti just posted it. Yeah.
Oh, awesome, Preeti. Thank you.
Thank you, Preeti.
She's fast with the links.
Yes, she had it open. I've still got to vote. I was disappointed you can't vote for visionaries. My favorite viz of the day is by a visionary, and it's like, I can't vote for it. Why can't leave?
Oh yeah, I guess that isn't clear to me if they're out of the favorite.
I can see why you wouldn't want to maybe designer or some of the other ones, but viz of the day should be viz of the day or viz of the year or whatever. So I may do it anyway just to protest.
Make it disqualified.
Well, whatever. I don't know why my video is not working, but okay. Well, thank you, everyone. We appreciate you joining us, and we'll see you in May.
Yeah, thanks.